All right, I'm gonna have to own up that I have an irrational amount of whiskey after collecting whiskey for 15 years or more at this point. I have accumulated several hundred bottles in my whiskey collection. There's more down here in these cabinets. But if all the whiskey disappeared tomorrow, shelves empty, cabinets empty, soul crushed, and I had to start all over from scratch, knowing what I know now, after buying all this whiskey and tasting all these different whiskeys, which bottles would I buy first if I was starting over? Honestly, after hunting for bottles and collecting for probably over 15 years at this point, well, to be honest, these days, searching for allocated releases and overpriced bottles sounds about as fun to me as getting a prostate exam from Edward Scissorhands. So some of these choices might surprise some of you. These aren't the rarest bottles. These aren't bottle flexes. This isn't the stuff people argue about online endlessly like politics. These are all fairly attainable bottles, with the exception of maybe one or two are a little harder to get. And these aren't the most expensive bottles in my collection, or even really the best bottles I've ever had. These are the bottles that I reach for most often. My kind of go-to bottles. They all offer a little something different, so you have some good variety. And honestly, if this was all the whiskey I had in my entire collection, I would be content and not really feel like I was missing out on anything. With the side benefit of they don't make you go through the 5 stages of regret after you check your bank account. I've bought the cheap stuff. I've bought the really stupid, crazy expensive stuff. And these are still the ones that I always come back to. Some of these do have some personal reasons why they're on my list. Whiskey is a super subjective thing. Some of this list may not be for everyone, but if you're just getting into whiskey or you're trying to clean up your whiskey buying habits, this might be a good reference point. All right, folks, let's take a quick pause to thank the sponsor of today's video, ZBiotics. Look, I've brought this up before. I enjoy a pour of whiskey as much as the next guy, but that doesn't always make you feel optimal the next morning. Especially now with me being in my 40s, let's be honest, I'll be 48 this coming year. It takes less and less of any kind of alcohol whatsoever to make me feel off my game the next day. Well, the folks at ZBiotics aim to help with that issue. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. PhD scientist invented it to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's that byproduct, not dehydration, that makes you feel absolutely miserable the next day. ZBiotics produces an enzyme to help break this byproduct down. You just drink ZBiotics before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, get a good night's sleep, and feel your best the next day. Look, I get what you're probably saying. I was skeptical about this stuff at first also, but after putting this stuff to the test, I tested it myself. I also gave it out to a few friends at a get-together we had because I wanted kind of an unbiased outside perspective. We talked the next day and we all agreed we were surprised at how good we felt. And at that point, we were sold. So just click the link below or scan the QR code that's going to be in the bottom corner right now and get 15% off your first order at checkout. ZBiotics is also backed by a 100% money back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Really a pretty no risk proposition. So check those links out below to get 15% off. Thanks to the folks at ZBiotics for sponsoring this video and supporting the channel. All right, folks, now let's get back to your regularly scheduled program. Let's start with the foundation, the budget bottles. High value, no nonsense, budget bangers. Wild Turkey 101. This is my baseline. This is the bottle I judge all other bottles against. 101 proof, tons of flavor, affordable. You can get these things for like probably under 20 bucks usually. This is the old label that I keep on my shelf just for memory's sake, but the new ones look like this. And honestly, we don't usually buy the 750s. We usually buy the handles because it works neat. It works on ice. It works in a cocktail. It's the all-purpose bourbon. We have blind tasted this with tons of different, much more high-priced bourbon, and this thing wins a lot of the time. If a bottle costs twice as much as this, and it can't beat this, why do you need it? Because somebody on Instagram told you it was really cool and hard to get? Nah. This is the Toyota Tacoma of bourbon. It's not flashy, it's just old reliable. Jack Daniel's Black Label. Now hear me out before you start typing, "Oh, come on!" Oh. Jack Daniel gets a lot of hate because it's popular, not because it's bad. This is a Tennessee whiskey, not a bourbon, so it's charcoal mellowed, it's got a different process, different flavors, it's consistent, it's everywhere. There is a reason this bottle has survived this long, and it is one of the most popular whiskeys on the planet. I will say one of the reasons this whiskey made my list is a sentimental reason. I will always have a bottle of Jack Daniels in my collection because this was my dad's favorite whiskey of all time. His drink was a blackjack on ice with a splash of water, and he liked to chew double mint gum while he was drinking it. I don't know, I guess that's kind of like adding a little sprig of mint, and he loved this stuff. So I always have a bottle of this stuff in my collection. But even if it wasn't for my dad, this is a budget banger. I feel like it deserves a spot on my list. Next up, Early Times Bottled in Bond, specifically the Bottled in Bond, not the normal Early Times. The Bottled in Bond is a bourbon, arguably better when it was made by Brown-Forman back in the day before Sazerac bought it, but still a great bottle. This one is a sleeper outside of you whiskey heads and a cult classic inside for my whiskey nerds. Probably know all about this one. It's been a crowd favorite in the whiskey community for years. Well under 30 bucks for like a liter of this stuff, depending on your area. Like I said, it is Bottled in Bond, which means 100 proof, one distillery, one season, all the rules and stuff that go along with Bottled in Bond. One of the best bang for the buck bottles ever, in my opinion, probably tied with Wild Turkey. If you want great value without guessing games, this bottle delivers every time. And don't sleep on the old Granddad 114. Good old Jim Beam product, maybe around 30-ish a bottle, depending on your area. 114 proof, big flavor. It's all that cinnamon spice, brown sugar, vanilla you expect in a good bourbon. It's not here to be polite though, it is a little bit higher proof, but high proof isn't bad. Rushing it is. You gotta learn just to sip the high proof. Enjoy it for what it is. A lot of us that have been in the whiskey for a while, after you drank a lot of high proof whiskey, you become a bit of a proof hound, and then you really prefer the higher proof stuff. Old Granddad, a lot of people in the whiskey community know about this one. This is another one of those sleepers in my opinion. Great bottle for the price. Now those were all kind of my low-end cheap. They're great to have on hand because they're inexpensive. You can put them in cocktails and you don't feel bad about it. Pour drinks when people come over. They're just a good baseline to have at your home bar. So you got some really good inexpensive whiskey on hand for all purposes. Next, we're gonna move up a little bit of a price class. You guys knew there was going to be no list that I did. I wasn't going to include Old Forester 1910 and 1920. 1910, usually around 50-ish, 1920, a few bucks more because it's a higher proof. These bottles are basically like brothers in my opinion. 1910, a little bit sweeter, a little more, I guess, dessert leaning because of that kind of sweeter double-barreled vibes it's got going on. 1920, a little darker, a little hotter, a little more aggressive, but still sweet and nice. Neither's wrong. You just kind of pick your personality. And honestly, some people like to mix half and half of 1910, 1920 and make something called 1915. I suppose you understand why, because it's halfway between. Anyway, these are just two bottles that will always be a part of my collection. They're great bottles. I love them. Woodford Reserve Double Oaked. Do I need to say more? If you guys have ever watched any of my whiskey videos in the past, you'll be familiar with this bottle because I recommend it constantly. I don't think I've ever given Double Oak to anyone and they didn't like it. It's usually around 50-ish price also. It's got that secondary barrel aging done with the toasted barrel, so you get that nice, rich, smooth. It's easy to enjoy. This is a bottle you pour for your guest when you don't feel like explaining anything. Everybody likes it, but approachable does not mean boring. A lot of good flavor in this thing, and the price is good. I'll always have some Double Oak on my shelf. Be one of the first ones I bought, honestly, next to probably Wild Turkey. Speaking of Wild Turkey, the big brother to Wild Turkey 101, Wild Turkey Rare Breed. Higher proof means higher price tag, so this one is gonna run about 50 to 55 bucks, but this one is barrel proof, it's uncut, it's unfiltered, big flavor without a bunch of chaos, very traditional bourbon goodness, all the great things about 101 turned up and unfiltered. This is what happens when you just let good bourbon be bourbon. The folks at Wild Turkey have been doing this shit for a very long time. They know what they're doing, and Rare Breed is one of my favorite bottles from those guys. We have our budget banger bangers, kind of the ones that you make cocktails with. You can keep them on hand for super inexpensive. You can pour them liberally for guests if you're having get-togethers and not shed a tear because of the money you spent on the bottle. We've got our mid-range stuff, a little bit higher end, but still daily drinkers because they're not all that expensive, you know, $50-ish a bottle. Now we're bumping up to the stuff that are a little more difficult to find, and the price does go up, so you got to be willing to drop a little bit of coin on most of these bottles. But these are the kind of the special bottles, the cherry on top, because in any whiskey collection, even if I kept it small, I would want a few special bottles. First up, Doc Holliday 10-year. It's kind of pricey. I've seen it as cheap as, I think when I bought this bottle, I think I paid a little over 100 or somewhere around 100 for it. I've seen it as high as 200 depending on the bottles and stuff, because they have a lot of different versions of this 10-year. They have these gift sets that come with like these really fancy bottles, revolvers and stuff, which obviously is gonna drive the price really high up. It's got a 10-year age statement, classic profile, and to be honest, one of the coolest bottles on my shelf. And look, I know bottles don't mean anything at the end of the day, but when the juice in it is also a damn fine whiskey, and it's got a super cool bottle, you can't miss. It's Doc Holliday, Tombstone, one of my favorite movies of all time, so kind of a homage to that. It's actually got like a metal steer's head on the front, and then the cap is also all metal, and it looks like a revolver. It looks like the cylinders of a revolver. Fun to have some nice looking bottles in your collection. If the juice in it wasn't any good, then it wouldn't be worth it, but this is also an excellent, excellent bourbon. Definitely would be one of the bottles, if I was restarting my collection, I would buy one of these. Next bottle up, and this might raise a few eyebrows too, but to be very clear here, Blanton's to me is only worth it if you can get it at like under $100. 80, 90, I would pay up to $100 for a bottle of Blanton's, but if you can find it close to what it should be for retail and not crazy marked up, it's well worth it. It is one of the most classic bourbons from the good folks at Buffalo Trace. Again, iconic bottle. When you get into these specialty bottles, not only does the whiskey have to be good, I feel like having some iconic, really cool bottles for the shelf helps out. You know what I mean? I mean, I know it doesn't mean anything, but you know what I'm saying. It also helps when you look at your whiskey collection, you're like, that's pretty cool. But a damn respectable pour. I really do enjoy Blanton's at the end of the day. Again, I don't think it's worth the price tag. I see some of these guys are paying $200 and $250 for a bottle of Blanton's. That's wild. I wouldn't do that, but if you can get it for 100 or less, the juice is delicious. The bottle's cool. It's a very iconic bottle that's been around for a long, long time. Just a hell of a good bottle for your collection if you can get it at the right price. Plus, this is the whiskey John Wick drinks. Yeah. So, I mean, what else do you want? Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend is next on our list. And again, this is probably gonna run you a better part of probably a couple $100, at least all the ones I've ever seen in my area. But this whiskey is delicious. The bottle is cool, but this one is about the whiskey in the bottle, not the bottle. It's layered, it's slow, it's syrupy. It was meant to be paired with a cigar. This isn't a daily driver. This is one that when you have time to sit down and relax, have you a nice cigar, you pour yourself a dram of this, you sit down, shut up, and just enjoy the pour. This was a Nancy Fraley invention or creation. You know, I love Nancy Fraley. Her palate is just great in my opinion. She's a cigar smoker. She knows how to make whiskey to drink with cigars. It's delicious stuff. Whiskey with intention because it was meant to be paired with a cigar, and it's one of my favorites. Let's talk Scotch, because I'm not gonna leave my Scotch guys out. Most of this was whiskeys, American whiskeys and bourbons because, well, I'm from Kentucky and that's kind of where my roots lie, and that's probably my favorite is bourbons and stuff like that. But I am a Scotch guy. Also, I do enjoy a pour of Scotch occasionally, and so we gotta put a little something on this list for my Scotch dudes. First up, Ardbeg Uigeadail. I think that's how Rex says it. Around 90 bucks. This is campfire smoke, leather, bad decisions, mermaid's bathwater, all the crazy descriptors people give for Islay Scotches, Big Pete, but this one specifically is nicely balanced. It's got a nice little bit of sweetness on it. If this flavor profile clicks with you, it's gonna be unforgettable. Also, if it doesn't click with you, honestly, it's gonna be unforgettable because when you give somebody an Islay Scotch for the first time, you get one of two reactions. Either it's the best thing they've ever had and they love it, or they want to like scrub their tongue with steel wool. They're either gonna love you for it or hate you for it. I personally enjoy it. I think this is a good balanced version for an Islay Scotch. It's a good one to put in the collection. Next up, Glendronach Revival 15. Again, around the $90 price point. This is Scotch that changes bourbon guys' minds. No smoke, all richness. It is sherry cask finish, so it's got that nice dark fruit, sweet, spicy kind of thing going on. It's just a delicious bottle, and if you're a bourbon guy that wants to come over to try some Scotch, this probably would not be a bad option for your first Scotch. Balvenie DoubleWood 17. I've heard people pronounce it Balvenie and people pronounce it Balvenie. I'm not sure, but I'm not good at pronouncing things, so who gives a shit? But I'm gonna have to put another caveat on this one because I haven't bought one of these in a while, and I was looking at some of the prices when I was getting ready to shoot this video, and some of the prices on this stuff look like it's gone crazy. So I'll put the caveat out there, only if you can find it for like $200 or less. It is a 17-year Scotch, so it's gonna be more higher end, but man, the prices I've seen on some of these is like $300-400. That's crazy. I'm not paying that much for this stuff. They also make a DoubleWood 12. If you can't find this for under 200, the 12 is also good. The 12 is not as good as a 17, but a reasonable switch out if you don't want to spend crazy money. Also, they make a Caribbean cask that is really good. Any of those I think would be good in this slot, but this one specifically, because it's 17 years old, gives you a Scotch with a little bit of age on it in your collection, so you can kind of appreciate what happens when a Scotch sits for a while. This bottle doesn't raise its voice because it doesn't need to. It's balanced, it's mature. Scotch is very different than bourbon. It just gets better with age. I actually don't like super old bourbons. I think they get a little too woody and oaky, but Scotches, the older they get, the more mature and aged and just kind of balanced, and the more flavor they get, just because of the differences in the way Scotch is created and the environment is aged in. I think having a older Scotch in your collection is worth it, even if you gotta pay a few more bucks for it. Here's the bottom line. You don't need every bottle on this list. You just need a few different bottles from different categories to cover your bases. Budget bangers that are really delicious that you can pour daily and sip on and making cocktails and not feel bad about. Some mid-range stuff for your slow sippers when you want to sit down and have a little neat pour or something like that, but don't want to break the bank. And then a few high-end cherries on top for your collection that are for when special occasion, when you want to sit down and have a cigar and really sit down and relax and slow sip and enjoy. And you have your bases covered. Buy smart, drink slow, and don't pay stupid prices just to impress strangers. These days, with the amount of whiskey that's out there, it can be mind-numbing, and honestly with the prices, whiskey has gone crazy. When I first started collecting whiskey years and years ago, it wasn't near as bad. These days, the prices of whiskey has just gotten wild. Also, trying to search for some of this stuff is just mind-numbingly painful. Like, it's just not worth it when there's stuff like Wild Turkey, Woodford Reserve Double Oaked, the 1910s and when there's whiskey out there like that that's super available and inexpensive. It's the proposition for spending a lot of money and hunting for a bottle of whiskey and standing in line for a raffle ticket and then having to buy 3 other bottles to earn points at a store so that you even have the privilege to buy, and like all the shit that goes on these days. I don't know, man. I just don't know if it's worth it anymore. Get you some available bangers and move on with your day. If I missed one that is one of your favorites that you just love, drop it down in the comments and let me know. Just for the love of God, please don't tell me down below you paid $250 for a bottle of Blanton's, because while it's good, the bottle's cool, the juice is good, it's not $250 good. Let's be honest. I haven't done a whiskey video in a while, so I wanted to sneak one more whiskey video in before we went into 2026. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, feel free to smash that like button. That always helps us out. If you're not a subscriber, please consider doing so. We'd love to have you on board. I hope everyone is having a fantastic week. Be careful on New Year's out there. Don't drink and drive, people. It's not worth it. Uber or just stay where you're at. Be safe out there. Have a good time. Love you bitches. See you in the next video. Yeah, man, the whiskey game has gotten weird. This is coming from a guy who's obviously, I mean, I've spent a lot of damn money on whiskey. It's hard these days, man. I hear a lot of these liquor stores, to even be able to buy one of the hard to get bottles, you have to like buy 2 other bottles to be able to buy one of those bottles, or buy enough bottles to accumulate points to where you're even allowed to buy another bottle. And it's like, man, at that point, it's just gone a little sideways, man. Just fucking buy a bottle of Double Oaked and move on with your life. It's not worth it.